Welcome to B2B Tech Mindset, where we explore how technology drives business success. Join us as we discuss the latest software solutions, trends, and strategies that can help you stay ahead of the curve. Develop a tech mindset and learn how to leverage technology for growth in your organization.
Welcome back to a new episode of the podcast. And today we want to talk about low code, no code, and citizen fill the blank. And fill the blank might be citizen developer or citizen data scientist. And the motivation to talk about this thing is the fact that I first heard about this when I was working in telco in the past. And there, being a citizen data scientist was a thing. There was a bunch of tools that began to emerge at the time where people could just by click and point with drag and drop, you could just build the whole data science pipeline. And that was, at the time, that was crazy because people had to write all the things in Python. Well, still people have to write all the stuff in Python. And I think at the end of the day, this is what kind of survived. But there are many data science processes that you can build in a visual way. And I think the super cool thing is that you can explain that to business stakeholders, people like that. And after I saw that, I was fascinated by that. And it's not that I'm a heavy user of low code, no code platforms. I definitely am not, but I'm interested about it. I'm interested. And that's why we thought it would be a good idea to have a conversation today about that topic, see how far we go. So what are your thoughts about it? What are your experiences so far with low code, no code?
Yeah, no, definitely low code, no code is a buzzword that's coming more and more into the mainstream. I personally have been involved in designing a couple of products that have low code, no code capabilities. So I'm pretty familiar with these concepts on also with some of the pitfalls that those type of product may have. Like, yeah, the main idea behind it is like empower your users to do more with the system, like make the system more flexible, not defining every use case or like actually developing like every use case, like build the system in a very abstract way that you can model it depending on your use case. So that's basically the main idea from low code, no code, or most of these products.
Yeah, it's funny because the first low code, no code environment that I recall using often, especially last weekend, because I was trying to set up this website, and then I go and I was in Azure, so I set up this application service, and then I deployed their WordPress. And when I deploy my WordPress there, I was looking for a theme, and then I found there are themes that allows you to configure your pages and do crazy things there, and then I found myself doing no code. Essentially, you can build your whole website layout and define your styles and define how many columns you want to have and the styles and the colors and even you can define interactions, and if you want a single page application or if you want to use a classic blog, all these things you can do there without writing a single line of code. And I found that amazing. And I think there is like a huge ecosystem around these things, and people don't really think about this as no code or low code for that sake, but it is. And I think there are many of these tools that people use in daily basis. Like I know there is, I don't know, you recall when we were still in education, there are these learning platforms like Moodle. What is that? Moodle was the name? Yeah, Moodle.
I think it was Moodle,
Yeah, Moodle. It's the same thing. You know, you can upload your whole content. You can define policies, who can see this, who cannot see that, and you can create your whole training. And that was another case of something that is a no code platform, and is something that can be pretty useful. But I think the huge difference now is that you can use those also inside of the enterprise, to manage business processes, to do things like data science, to do things like automating some workflows. And that's what we want to talk about, is how these things come together in the enterprise, what these things are, what experiences, where are we seeing people using these new capabilities?
I think we should start like why we are seeing this type of low code, no code. I'm not gonna say that they are like the majority of the companies are using that. Like the majority of the companies that can use it are using some capability of that. It's definitely not for everybody. But I think we can just take a step back and talk about why you may want to take a look into that to introduce that in your organization. Is
Or
like
perhaps we can go one step even further. We can say, what is a no code platform? So for people who don't know what it is, it's like, what is that?
So basically, a no code is like no code, low code. It's like the system that you are working on is flexible enough that you can actually build a kind of solution or pipelines or data flows or whatever you're building without writing a single line of code, like connecting data from different systems or pushing data from your warehouse to your shipping facility or importing data from your salespeople or generating a report. Like report is something like usually you have a low-code, no-code environment and you can drag and drop fields and drag and drop like charts, whatever. Other very rudimentary things that you can code low code, no code is like some business intelligence systems that let you like design dashboards or real-time dashboards from looking at this KPI, over time in a chart, etc. That can be classified as low code, no code as well, but very rudimentary if you ask me. So basically, a very, very flexible system that is designed in an abstract way that you can actually build your business cases and solve business problems on top of it without being a programmer. That is the low code, no code. The code, a programmer is able to code, but if you are not a programmer, you are not able to code. So the system empowers you to do amazing stuff without the need to be a coder or a developer. So that is basically my definition, very personal, of low code, no code.
I like to think about the platforms that everyone knows. So for people to understand what actually means to be to have a low code environment. I mean, full disclosure, again, I work for Microsoft, but this is not Microsoft advertisement. But again, Excel is probably one of the classic examples, or if you use any Office product, because you can always go and use Visual Basic for applications. So if you use Visual Basic for applications, you can extend what the Office suite does. So that will be the
low code
part of it. Or if in Excel you write an expression, like you are using a VLOOKUP or something like that, that is also low code. And you can do some interesting automation doing that, but you can skip the whole thing altogether and use the data transformation things, and you can build or you can create a pivot table without writing a single line of code. So for people who think that this is something that is really far away from their world, if they are using Excel or they're using PowerPoint, just to mention these two tools, which, I think most people know them, they do have these low code, no code capabilities. You can just, with the standard user experience, user interface that you have, you can build things, you can drag and drop resources and assets and data and connect to this data source and import this file. And you're not writing anything, any single line of code, but you can write expressions that might filter some things or can do some math or some analytics. Or you can just use some programming language like Visual Basic for applications to tweak things, to automate some things, because sometimes you want to automate things. Sometimes you want to do, even if you do macros, like macros that you could record, you were clicking things and then you can automate the whole thing and then it plays the whole thing back to you. That's a way of using low code or no code to improve your productivity. So I think people are more often exposed to these technologies than they actually realize. It's more
Yes.
pervasive than people know. And for that reason, I think it's important for people to be aware that actually there is now a rise of tools and possibilities in this realm. And
Yes. No.
of course, they
Oh, go
come
ahead.
with risks. So before we were talking offline about the risks. So tell me some crazy
Yeah.
stories that might happen.
Before going to the risks, like not only on the enterprise, it's like if you see stuff like Siri shortcuts or whatever the equivalent is in Android, it's like that's basically a low code, no code environment where you can define certain behaviors on your phone that are not predefined. Like you can say, oh, if that happened, then do that, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it lets you adapt the software, let's say it's like that, like your device, your iPhone, to your particular use cases. So if you take a bunch of pictures, you always send the picture to this particular application, you can create a Siri shortcut to do that. I guess I don't use that in any capacity, but I think that is how it works, or how it should work. So people expect it to work.
Yeah, I
So it's
think the
not only
name.
on the enterprise. Yeah.
I think the name for house automation, I think is the name of the protocol is if TT or
If
something like
this,
that.
then that. Yeah.
Yeah, if then that. Yeah, exactly. And
If
that's
this, then that. Yeah.
essentially a low code, no code environment for home automation, or even if you want to go even fancier, Internet of Things uh, at
Yes.
home. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if this, then that is not only for home. I mean, you can use it for home automation, but it's basically they operate in your daily websites
Mm,
that you use. Like you can define workflows like if I upload a photo to Instagram, then post the same photo to Twitter.
mm,
And then you upload it once and
mm.
they get like these two things together. And that again is adapting the software to your particular use case. Like you have two accounts, Instagram and Twitter, and then you need to post at the same time. You automate that in one post. So you adapt it. So the low code environment, low code, no code environment enables you or empowers you to solve your particular problem that you have
Yeah,
with automation.
I was thinking about the IoT or things because these lights that you see in the background, they support that. So you can
Yeah.
have any virtual assistant in your mobile phone thing, and then you can just create these kind of scripts that people can use for that. And it's
Yes.
even for kids. There was there is this environment for kids. I forgot. I think it's not Flask. What's the name of it? Uh,
It's
uh,
something
uh,
like React,
no,
something like
what
that.
is the
It's
name?
with
The name
R.
of that kids programming. This MIT thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's totally visual.
it's totally visual, exactly. And so you have
Yeah,
like Lego pieces, and you have
it's
some
like Lego
Lego.
pieces. Yeah.
Yes, there are some Lego pieces that they are like the if conditions, and you have the actions and the functions, and the
Yes.
parameters are also have a different color, and then the kids just
Mhm.
build the whole thing, and at the end you have a little game. So
Yes.
this is also another form of low code, if you want, or no code environment where you can build your little games with that. And then I think that other games like that. I don't have it in the top of my head. I would
Yeah.
have to ask my kids, but there's a bunch of because it's a bunch of these things,
There is.
and
There is. There is.
and you can run a lot of automation, but things can go wrong.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, we were starting talking before or mentioning before that the risk of the low code, no code. So my career been involved in products that have low code, no code capability. You have to be aware of the risks. Like if you give power to the user, that also means that they can be destructive power, not destructive for company or whatever, or for themselves, but your data is in danger. Like if you give the capability of like, I don't know, perform an action like will be like delete a record, which sounds pretty innocuous at the beginning. But if you, before that action, you have a query that say like, give me all the user, and after that you have the action like delete the records or delete all users in the end, is what you're building. So if you execute that statement, you will basically kill your database and erase everything. If you don't have a backup mechanism, or even if in the DevOps you don't have a backup mechanism, then you are basically dead in the water. All your data is gone. That's why one important part of the low code, no code products or environments is like, you have two options. In my opinion, from my experience, is like, you have to be able to signal the user, hey, this is a potentially very destructive action that you are building. So yeah, you pretty sure triple check that you want to execute this in this way, because, and that is also my recommendation here. Show them the results. So if you execute this, 3,000 records will be deleted in the database. Or when the user say like, oh, 3,000 records will be deleted in the database, I only wanted to delete about 100, then it's something wrong, you go back and fix whatever is wrong there. Or that will be the other part, the other option that will be my preferred, is like, let it execute it, but let the user come back to the previous state. Like you executed that, you come tomorrow and say, oh, database is back. So okay, undo that thing that I did yesterday and you get the state back. But that's a little bit different to program. So that's why resource-wise, it's not the preferred option. The preferred option is a big red warning. It's like, please be careful. On 3 times, are you sure? Are you really sure? Are you really, really sure? That is the current state of affairs.
What I see often in organizations is, I mean, the way they call it is shadow IT. So you have all these software capabilities deployed in your organization, and they are not deployed by IT. It's just people bring them. It's like, bring your own device or bring your own whatever it is to the workplace, and they are connected to the intranet or whatever it is, to your corporate network or your work network. And then people begin to do funky stuff inside of your network. So and then many low code, no code environments fall into that category. I mean, they have the potential to do that. And what I've seen is a strengthening of the security posture of the organizations. And I know this sounds very corporate, but it's what it is that you have to strengthen your security posture in order to ensure that the data assets that the organization has are really well protected. And the way that IT do that is by using things like zero trust. It's like, it is like you have the minimum access to these resources, or the access that you really need. And if you need to do something else, you need to ask for those permissions. And then there is also other risks with the low code, no code environment. You have the risk of exfiltration of data. So some of these environments, they are not contained. So it might be that you are taking some of your internal information and you're moving it to some provider somewhere, and no one is aware of that.
Somewhere in the cloud.
Exactly. You don't know where it is. And then surprise, you don't know if that provider is also compliant with the same regulations that your business should be compliant. And that might happen. So
that might happen. Like you are using like, I've seen that happen a couple of times though. It's like basically you have a software that have access to your whole database because it's a business information software, business intelligence software that you use like basically to create dashboard or whatever. But that thing had access to all your data because you were lazy, and the people that configured it that is like, oh yeah, tomorrow we want to make a report of this other data, so let's connect everything to this thing. On that thing had a vulnerability that got hacked at some point, and since everything was in the cloud, all the data was flushed out. That is one example.
I mean, it can definitely happen. But
Yes.
the challenge is to balance between the risks and the benefits, because so far
Yes.
we've spoken about what the problems are, but I think there are also a lot of benefits to it. Especially, I don't know how it's in other places in the world, but here in Europe, in Germany particularly, there is a shortage of people who have the capability to build IT systems. So by bringing these tools, it's obviously empowering those who do not have those skills. So people can now go out there and build what they need for their own department. And I think there is a lot of power, there is a lot of um, empowerment that you are giving to your employees when they are able to build these systems by themselves. And I think this is the balance. This is a little bit, you have to juggle between increasing productivity, creating these new tools, and the obvious security risks that you might have. However, it's funny because there are scenarios where you have, I recall there was this guy, and he was talking about YouTube automation. And this is a funny example. It's not really a corporate example or something really
Business.
yeah, like
Well,
super, like
yeah.
it's business, but it's not in a
It's not
corporate or
enterprise.
enterprise. It's not enterprise. Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was doing YouTube automation. And for that, he had a calendar, he had an spreadsheet, and then he had something like an agile canvas where he could move people from one stage in the process to the next stage in the process. So I think they were building videos, and then the first part was to create the script, and then he was assigning that to someone, and then moving that to the next phase, to the next column, when that was like proofing that the script was spell checked properly,
proofreading
and so
stuff,
on, and
yeah.
then creating the video and uploading the assets and all these things.
Yeah.
And he connected a bunch of things. So he built a mashup of a bunch of different no code
stuff.
no code stuff. And at the end, he had a really productive thing that for his particular use case, I mean, if your spreadsheet get leaked, probably not big deal.
Not a big deal. Yeah.
Probably not big deal. So for certain scenarios, these things can be super useful. And this person had a team of contractors all over the world. So I think he had people in the Philippines and people in the US, and they were all collaborating there because all these tools were online and they were all working together. And he built this workspace, this workplace in this workspace where he had this virtual company and everyone working in one environment without having to build a software that did that particular thing. So I think that's really powerful. And probably there are many use cases where you can also do the same thing.
And I'm pretty sure that that particular example, I'm pretty sure he started automating all that because he couldn't scale any other way. Like if he have to do all the steps manually, that will take too long, or it will be too expensive, or that will need like the double amount of people or resources to do that. So the automation using low code, no code solutions come from the problem of scaling, for instance. Yeah, in that particular case, I can figure it out. Yeah.
That might be.
On another aspect of the low code, no code products, if you introduce that in your organization, is like you actually are potentially being more flexible to the environment, which is one of the best characteristics that your organization can have in this forever changing environment like we are living in these times. Like if you are able to adapt to new change in the market, change in the supply chain, all that, if you empower your employees or your departments or whatever to be flexible in solving their own problems their own way, that increase your organization flexibility and adaptability, which is pretty crucial, if you ask me, in these times.
Yeah, I think and it goes back to the original subject of not depending on having a certain amount of people who is capable of writing software in a formal way, because it's hard to come by with software engineers these days. It's hard. And building software projects takes time. It's not something that is easy. And then the problem with writing software is that the standards for writing software have been increasing over time. So the expectation that people have right now is that you have your test coverage in your code, that you have a DevOps pipeline. And software engineers are thinking in these terms, and that makes absolutely sense if you are building some IP that you need to, or you are going to resell to your end customers. And you need to ensure certain level of quality. If you have SLAs, right? If you have service levels agreements, and if you have other metrics that you are making commitments towards your clients. But if you're building an ad hoc, or if you need an ad hoc software solution that might boost the productivity of any department in your organization, or if you are an entrepreneur and you realize there is this process, and that's why I like to go back to this YouTube guy, to the whole YouTube automation story, because I found that fascinating. He needed, I mean, if you think about, is there a software suite that allows you to automate YouTube or video production in a distributed manner? Well, I think probably the answer is, I don't know. I tend to say no.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and of course, that he has is not completed, in that, you know, there he doesn't have like a payroll system. There's no payroll system there. You know, he has to see how he pays his contractors, but still, he sees when people gets the files, and when people check back the files to their online storage account, whatever they have, whatever they use. And software in this way can help you to automate that. Obviously, and this goes back to what we discussed last week, there is understanding what is the underlying process. You know, he really understands, and I think he even stressed at some point, look, I know these are the steps and these are the tools that I need to integrate in my workflow, because I did this by myself. And so I had a to-do list where I could tell, well, I need to do this and this and this and this and this things. And now I just put together all these tools and they do these things for me, or I can just outsource these things to other people. And
because he knew already the full process, because he developed the process over time. Like at the beginning, I'm pretty sure the process was not like it is right now. Like he figured out all the steps he needed to do to improve the quality of whatever he's doing. So he developed the process, and after you have the process defined, can be a simple to-do list, like you do this first, this next, and the third step is this one. So that is that 3 steps defines as a process, and it's documented. If you have it in a list, it's documented. If you have it documented, you can potentially pretty, let's say, with low effort, automate that.
Yeah,
that is exactly the case.
Yeah, which is super cool. And it brings us back to the whole process definition and process automation. And then there is one other aspect of the whole low code, no code, which is these RPAs. You know, have you hear about the robotic process automation thing, which I found that pretty cool. Again, if you go back to the example of Excel, you had macros, and macros, what were macros? Well, you had this record button, you press that, and then you were clicking through your whole spreadsheets and copying things from A to B and doing stuff there. And then if you had your macros recorded, and then you could just place the cursor somewhere and then click replay my macro, and then it would automate the whole thing. And now what robotic process automation does is the same thing at the operative system scale. So it's just open this application, go to this web page, scroll, select this, paste it in this other application, and then write something somewhere. And I found that pretty cool. Very powerful. Again, very powerful. It has a lot of room for things going wrong if you are not paying attention to what you have to do.
You are not paying attention. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's indeed very powerful. I mean, how many things you can automate? Like if you have, say, if someone has a virtual assistant, and this is one scenario that I was thinking when I was looking at this YouTube guy, because he actually inspired me for many, many possible scenarios that you could do. So imagine you have some virtual assistant somewhere in the world, and instead of this person working in their local computer, this person is working in a machine in some hyperscaler, so some cloud provider, and they have their Windows machine there, and you have installed one of these robotic automation processes agents, and then when the person is clicking, doing, I don't know, this person is doing the billing, or this person is creating a thumbnail, or doing some simple editing of something, you could just record all these steps. And when you have a recording of all these steps, you could eventually,
in theory,
exactly, start a virtual machine in the cloud. If that process is predictable and reproducible enough, which I guess not all processes are like that, but some will be, and
some will definitely be, yeah.
Some will definitely be. It's like if you know that you have to go to website X and you have to select all content and paste it somewhere, and then create a list of documents that have the content of website X.
Yeah. And for that example of the virtual assistant, I think it felt a little bit short, but because my definition of the virtual assistant is like, is there to assist you whatever comes to your mind. So the process is not always define what he needs to do.
Well, but
to figure out in a way.
Yeah, well, virtual assistant, I mean, in the broader sense of the word, it's like, I'm not thinking about having a secretary somewhere, but really someone who is supporting you with certain particular kind of tasks. It's like if you go to one of these online marketplaces for gigs, many times you find people who do data entry. That's what they do. And data entry, essentially, they go somewhere, they see some information, they capture that, and they paste it somewhere else. That's what you're doing.
Either paste it somewhere else,
yeah. And so if
in a different format, maybe.
In a different format, they change it a little bit. But if it's not too complicated, you might just automate that using this. You can record what people is doing, and then you can just replay the whole thing. But this time you can do it across several machines. You can do it at scale. So
you can scale that. You can scale that process, but that means that the process is like reproducible, or it's always the same, so it doesn't change that much. I have you another example which is even more interesting. It's like, that it's an industry example. Like industry, when I mean industry, I mean production of goods. Like, a lot of industries are using robots, right, to build stuff like in the production line, right? So back in the day, what you used to program a robot is like really sit there in code and like move 10 centimeters to the right, advance it, pick this, open like 40 centimeters with the grabber, to that. Like, you have to code all that. So right now, there are some devices, let's call it like the robots like devices, that you can actually have, they have a trainer. When you actually put a suit on or an artificial arm, when you actually perform the actions, when that get recorded, and you can reproduce those actions in the robot. So it's like, you don't have to program the robot at all. You teach the robot to do stuff. You train the robot to do stuff. So that is another example of low-code, no-code platform that is actually, it's gonna be a lot more used in the industry.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think RPA in the different flavors is going to become pervasive, like probably it's going to be found in many different places, because again, there are many tasks that are really repetitive, and not only mechanical tasks or data entry tasks. There are also other tasks that, with a little bit of intelligence added to the mix, you could just automate. And I'm thinking probably, I mean, it's just beyond the scope of what we wanted to talk today, but if you think about how could you combine these large models like GPT, and then you now understand the context in which of a certain page, and if you have to do something different, the software can make a decision based off the information that is based there, and then you can ask the model, well, give me what kind of situation is this, and then it could kind of build a tree, or at least get a probability of what would be the best course of action. So if not fully automated, because that's another thing that people should keep in mind, if things are not fully automated, at least you can delegate certain parts, or use you can just delegate certain parts and ask the human in the loop for the decision. So instead of the human instead of exactly, the human will be supervising the process, but the heavy lifting is happening on the other side. So some machine, some automated system is just doing that. And then if there is a bottleneck or a point that a decision needs to be made, then you involve the human and you say, hey, how do you think I should do this and that? And then the person would, looking at the context, make a decision. And then if you are smart enough, then you capture the environment, and then you capture what decision the human bit did.
Retrofit the intelligence.
Exactly. And then you build a new model, and then over time, you will be able to also automate that part of the business, which I know many people think is kind of crazy, but is probably something that is feasible and can be done in many scenarios.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that a lot of stuff that we talk here in the podcast sounds pretty weird to a lot of people, but they are coming. So you need to be prepared for that.
And I think the interesting thing about low code, no code, and the data science, the citizen data scientist environments and citizen developer is that if you, in your organization, if you don't adopt these practices, because you're wary of them, you might be concerned of data exfiltration concerns, or because it's shallow IT, or because it might displace certain roles, all these concerns, which are valid.
Yeah, very valid.
And we get it. The problem is that you might have external competitors who are adopting these practices. And then when your competitors are adopting these practices and they are going against you with these tools, they have an order of magnitude of efficiency that you simply don't have. And
they're feeder for the market.
Exactly. And then you are not only, this is an uphill battle, because you are not only in the technological battle, you are also fighting a cultural battle within your organization. And so for that reason, it makes sense to really think about investing and promoting the cultural change that is necessary for people to adopt this mindset that implies that you use these tools to enhance the processes that people are experiencing, or that the people are trying to do. So again, to summarize that idea, if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it for you, and then they're going to kick your ass. That's
they're going to eat your lunch. Someone else is going to do it.
That's a short way to put it. Someone is going to do it. It's super interesting. It's because the other day I was scrolling in LinkedIn. LinkedIn has turned into my new. I was never an Instagram
social media outlet.
Yeah, I was never a huge Instagram user, but I check Twitter from time to time, and now I do scroll a lot.
You scroll LinkedIn.
I do a scroll a fair amount of LinkedIn, and you know, I was working in the game industry in the past, so I still get some stuff from the
Yes.
gaming industry. I have
Yes.
some colleagues who are still in the game industry, and
Mhm.
there was this tool that allows you to, I mean, in the game industry, you always had these algorithmically generated landscapes. That was always a thing. You know, you always,
Yes,
that was
like
always a thing.
procedural generated,
Yeah,
whatever.
procedural generated environments. You always had that
Yes,
thing
yes.
that was, but it was very basic. And it took some time because people have to put like, you know, if you have like vegetation and the textures and stuff like that. So you might have like a mesh, but then you have to put stuff on top, and then still you have artists doing things, and there are
Yeah,
games
it
like
has to look right. It doesn't. It cannot look like too machine done, because then it will look weird.
yeah,
Like you cannot put a tree and then on top of the tree a mountain. You have to do the other way
exactly.
around.
You need
Yeah.
a certain level of supervision there.
You need
And
rules. Yeah, you need
you need
rules for
rules,
that.
and then there are games like I think Diablo has many levels that
Mhm.
are actually generated in a procedural manner, so they're different. So you go back from the dungeon, you go back again in the dungeon, oh, this is different. And so what I saw, the demo that I saw, it was pretty amazing. They were generating a landscape, but not only the landscape, they have the geometry of the landscape, and then on top of that they added the textures, but then on top of that there was like vegetation on top, so other objects, and then on top of that they have fog, and they keep adding stuff on top, and then the crazy thing was that the prompt to do that was like a ChatGPT prompt. So they were just writing, give me yeah, that was done in seconds. You know, give me a landscape with mountains so and so, and then give me vegetation in this part and this part of the landscape, and now give me some fog. Wow. And now give me some, and you know, again, this is low code, no code at its best.
That is definitely something that people were doing like last year with a lot of programming. Like you definitely have to alter the parameters in the model, in the procedural generative model. You have to alter like vegetation. Yeah, I put a 5 here, and then I get like 500 trees or whatever.
Exactly.
So now you do it in a prompt. That is definitely no code environment for that particular task.
And there were people in the comments. So that the fascinating thing for me was the reaction in the comments, because obviously if you are, I mean, in the game industry is a hit-based industry. It's like the music industry, but the difference is that there is a
music industry, the movie industry. It's basically art.
It's art, but
it's
you know,
art.
You make a song, and the risk of making a song is not that huge. I mean, you need to buy your hardware, and you need to be creative.
Well, depends who perform. Depends who perform.
It depends, but it's not going to be as expensive as building a game. Like building a game is expensive.
Try to book an hour. Try to book an hour in Abbey Road.
Well, but a triple A game is expensive. I mean, we are talking here like hundreds of millions of bucks. There's no songs that are at that level. It's simply there's no songs that are at the level. So the challenge here is that now what you had in the past, a huge team of 3D artists creating those environments, and game designers and all these people working on that. Now with the prompt, you just created that. And the comments were really interesting, because people were like, oh, whoa, this is not good. Like, gosh, I mean, where is all these jobs going? But from a business perspective, if you are running one of these studios and you're trying to manage the risk that entails to create all this content that might fail, because again, is a hit-driven market,
hit-based system.
Yeah, so it's great for your business. It's just great for your business. So that's why it makes sense. It makes sense for people to take a look at these low-code, no-code environments. And now with all the enrichments that come through AI and these new generative models, I know you are a huge Mid-Journey user, for instance. Mid-Journey is another example.
Yes, definitely.
It's another example. I mean, how long it would take you to build those images?
Oh, first of all, I cannot illustrate, I cannot draw. So I'm a user experience designer. I'm a designer, but I design buttons and flows on tables, on charts and whatever. So I cannot draw at all. So any artistic artwork that I need, in the past I was relying on an artist. So right now it's like I rely on Midjourney. But that you were saying is more like the democratization of that process. Like it becomes accessible for more and more people to do that thing, like procedurally generate a landscape. Like last year, you need a 3D engineer, a game engineer, or some other person on the level designer to actually build the whole thing, because it was building code. So you need all those people. Now you only need to write the prompt, as far as I understood, right?
Yeah.
But that same technology development enables other people to do the same thing. And they may be more creative than the people working in the studio. So you may have in the situation that you get an indie game that is totally awesome, that without this advance in the technology, it never will have seen the light of the day. So
Well,
it
that's
never have been
true.
born because the creator, the artist, the main creator, didn't knew how to program, how to use Blender, how to use Unreal Engine or Unity or whatever they are using. So they didn't know, knew how to do that. But now with the systems of low code, no code system like that, he can create his game basically by summoning things
That's that's
to the
that's
scene. Yeah.
that's absolutely true. And that again goes back to that idea that if you don't do it, if you don't own those technologies, then your competition will. And
Yes.
for those studios who said, "Oh, this is horrible because now you are displacing all these roles," well, guess what? The next indie studio is going to do it for you, and then they will create those games, and then the whole company is going to, be out of market. So it's I know it's a tough time, and I think many of these technologies what gear us, and this is a topic that goes beyond the scope of the conversation today, might be perhaps a
Yeah.
conversation for a different day, but it goes to this idea that more and more we see that the roles that are necessary are more the orchestrator, if you will, the person who brings people together and that architects systems, because the more
Yeah.
automation you have and the more capabilities to bring different systems together and connect them and have these data pipelines that you can also visualize them, and understanding that you can move data from here to there, and I can automate and I can make predictions, and then I can start a process and do all these things. The role of the business owner, of the person who's running this, is more of orchestrating and architecting systems.
Yeah.
And that ability is going to become, in my opinion, more and more important every single day. Because yes, there will be still domains where you'll need to have the fundamental skills to actually build something. But even if you think of something like Copilot, right?
Yes.
You are increasing your efficiency, 10 plus, I don't know how much, because
I don't know how
now
much, but this is definitely more than that. I mean, I'm more productive than I was before. So
definitely.
I
And so,
can code faster.
yeah. So, that's for that reason, I think there will be many functions where this strategic view and this ability to build complex systems that look like Lego sets
Yeah.
is going to be more and more important.
Yes, definitely. And also, if you take a look at the developments in AI, like in a couple of years time frames, like in the short time frame, if your system is not able to communicate with an external AI that's querying your system for data, then you'll be out of the market completely.
Yeah.
Like same thing that happened with SEO on web pages. Like you have to optimize for SEO so you can show up in Google web search. So in the short future, you have to optimize for something AI that is going to interface with your system or find your information or whatever.
Something
So
AI,
that's definitely coming. That's definitely coming.
Something AI, something that, automate the way you do things, how you capture information, also how you capture what people is doing within your business, how you're running your business. I think all these things are coming, and and people, you better be prepared. You have to really be prepared.
I mean, you cannot see this. I mean, we have seen this a lot of time, but you cannot see the AI revolution, I call it that way, in quotes, air quotes, revolution as something dangerous. You have to see it as an opportunity, which it's for me, myself personally, I think it's an opportunity. It will change a lot of industries. It will change a lot of works and workplaces, and it will change the way that we do stuff.
Yeah, I think it's in the fundamental. In the fundamental is a switch, is a shift in mindset, and understanding that. I think that the before trying to see where the opportunities are, I think the first thing is understanding what our role is, and then trying to understand how can I enhance my role or what I'm doing by using these technologies.
Yes,
and I think on that note we can stop right here. We
can wrap it. I think we have a pretty good conversation about low code, no code.
Yeah.
And we always end talking about AI at the end of the chapters.
Well, that
but I mean, it's the new thing, so we have to do it. So it's the new thing.
It's closely connected. It's closely connected because
closely connected.
now is the line is pretty blurry.
Blurry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not it's not something that you can avoid these days. You have to bring it also in the conversation.
So we can wrap this up. Thank you for listening to our conversation. So if you want to communicate with us, probably the email will be down there. If not, there is something else down there that might be that you can use to communicate with us. So check it out. See you next week.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.